Well, I'll tell you, when the Clippers traded James Harden and Ivica Zubac, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Is they know something that we don't know about this investigation with Aspiration and Kawhi Leonard and the allegations within those? I feel like no one saw those trades coming a month ago. And then suddenly the Clippers are pivoting as an organization. And all of the things we had heard up until that point was preserve cap space, preserve cap space, preserve cap space. And then all of a sudden, James Harden's gone. Ivica Zubac is gone. They decided to prioritize a pick with the Indiana Pacers to try to get into this year's draft. And so they've done a complete 180 on the organizational future, except for Kawhi Leonard. They've kept him in the house. They've extended Lawrence Frank, the president of basketball operations. And amid all of this is this investigation being led by a law office commissioned by the NBA that we don't know the particulars of. But on their side, I'm sure they've been interviewed. I'm sure they've sat down and had discussions. I am sure that they have more information than we do as the public. Now, this weekend is the All-Star game, and Adam Silver will be fielding questions from the media on Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern. And so we'll probably get a lot of clarifications about where this investigation stands, considering he will be fielding those questions, you guys, within Steve Ballmer's building of the Intuit Dome. Kawhi Leonard is an all-star. James Harden is not. And what we're seeing is all these questions are swirling at the wrong time for the league office, because we have tanking questions. We've got lots of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Just where is he going? Where does everything stand with that? Do we like how superstars are going in and out of the trade talks while having a partnership with a prediction market? All of these questions are swirling, but none are more pressing than this situation with Kawhi Leonard and the aspiration investigation into the dealings with him. And we have a GM here. According to Pablo Torre's sourcing, the GM of the Clippers was saying out loud, the quiet part out loud, how many side deals do we have with Kawhi Leonard? Allegedly, this is what was said in a meeting. So, look, the NBA has been digging into this story, but I will tell you, me personally, covering this league, when they decided to pivot a couple weeks ago ahead of the trade deadline, my ears perked up a little bit regarding the outcome of this aspiration investigation.
I want to go back in time to when we first learned about the aspiration of it all. I mean, it was the biggest story in sports. We were all talking about it. All of our jaws were on the floor of how could this possibly happen. Fast forward to now, it feels like all of the new things that we're learning about this situation don't have the same amount of attention or shock value that they initially had. Do you feel like there's maybe some Clippers fatigue going on amongst NBA fans?
Well, I think what Steve Ballmer and the organization was banking on was the fact that games would distract everyone from this investigation. That as soon as Kawhi Leonard and James Harden took the floor, a lot of the smoke around this story would start to clear. Now, Kawhi Leonard is having an MVP type season for a team that's under 500. They were the laughing stock of the league about a couple months ago with the Chris Paul situation starting at 6-21. But they, right up until they traded James Harden and Ivica Zubac, they were pretty much the best team in the NBA for a better portion of a month. And so if you're wondering why this story seemed to take to the back burner, I think you got to start with the actual basketball on the floor. It's gotten a lot better for the Clippers, and Kawhi Leonard seems completely undeterred by this investigation, playing some of the best basketball we've seen him play in his entire two finals MVP career. And I think that is a big reason why this isn't front and center. Also, there's just a lot of other scandals happening in the league. When this story first dropped with regarding aspiration and the side deals with Kawhi Leonard, there was no gambling scandal in the NBA yet. And so when you are having that other bomb that is dropped onto the NBA, I think that is what you're seeing is there's just so many lawsuits, investigations happening at the league office that it's hard to keep all of your attention on this one story here. But rest assured, when the All-Star game is at Steve Ballmer's building, and at the end of this Pablo Torre report, he is saying that he has word that there was a potential government whistleblower within Aspiration that had written a complaint to the federal government about some improper dealings, illegal dealings, alleged illegal dealings regarding Joe Sandberg, who was running the Aspiration Company at the time. So what Pablo is raising is, was Steve Ballmer a part of that complaint, a part of that whistleblowing document report to the government? And if so, does the league office know about that? And that question is hanging over this Clippers organization as we head into this All-Star weekend, in which Adam Silver will be taking questions from reporters on Saturday afternoon.
Based only on what I know, we got to move on, but based only on what you know so far today, as we sit right now, as we tape this, how does this play out? What's the effective punishment in your mind?
I don't know how this plays out, because this is unprecedented. What we're seeing here with the richest owner in sports being investigated for the second time with cap circumvention. Remember, DeAndre Jordan, the league found that they had illegally, according to the league rules, offered DeAndre Jordan benefits that were improper, and they found them that they actually committed that basketball crime of doing that. So the precedence here, that there has been a history here, especially with the tampering and Uncle Dennis, this is all swirling to the point where I think the trust in the league office, all the other owners and GMs and players and agents are waiting to see how Adam Silver plays this, because you don't want the appearance that Adam Silver is picking favorites based on how much money you have and how much weight you can throw around in the NBA office. Remember, Steve Ballmer was heading up the auditing committee at the league office. And so the impropriety or conflict of interest that raises the stakes here, I think, make this a really complicated situation. So how this will play out, I really don't have a good idea of what Adam Silver will do here, simply because we just have never seen anything like this regarding the Kevin Garnett, Joe Smith fiasco with Glenn Taylor and the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was one of the lowest rung owners in the NBA. This isn't the richest guy, one of the richest guys in the world that we're talking here. So this is definitely an unprecedented situation when it comes to the power that Steve Ballmer has, and certainly the allegations within this organization.
We'll wait to see what punishments there are, if there's punishments at all for this. But it didn't take the NBA too long to hand out punishments for Pistons, Hornets players that were all involved in what we are affectionately calling on the show Bedlam at Spectrum. How many games are the players involved looking at? And do you think that those punishments were fair?
They were fair. It's hard to criticize the league office on this one when you're talking about Isaiah Stewart leaving the bench and charging after Miles Bridges, who is not innocent in this either, right? Like, you can't have a guy leaving the bench. I heard the Stone Cold Steve Austin glass breaking as I'm watching Isaiah Stewart running across the court there. It was an insane scene, considering this was spilling out into the crowd. You had courtside fans pointing to the referee to say, hey, there's another fight going on over there. It was a bad look for the NBA, and it does have huge import on the East race, because we're talking about the number one seed Detroit Pistons, who are trying to fend off the Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, and the Cleveland Cavaliers that just added James Harden, and they're going to be without Isaiah Stewart for 7 games here, which is important because 6 of those 7 games were against winning clubs, and when one of those games is against the Cleveland Cavaliers, that certainly makes this way more hurtful for the Detroit Pistons, especially Jalen Durham, 2-game suspension. They were able to win one of those games last night. But when you see Jalen Durham out for 2 games and Isaiah Stewart out for 7 with this really tough schedule up ahead, the Detroit Pistons hold on the number 1 seed certainly loosens up. And I do think that the NBA did have to come down hard here. Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate are 2 really key members of the Charlotte Hornets, and they're like the best story in the NBA going on right now. And so this hurts on both sides, and certainly makes the East race a lot more interesting because of those suspensions and how good Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart are.
All right, so speaking of drama in the league, and you mentioned Adam Silver is going to speak on Saturday. We know he's going to be asked about tanking. Tom, I don't think that there's an easy solution. I can't figure one out. You're smarter than I am. How do they fix the tanking problem that we seem to have right now?
Oh, it's an easy solution. It's just going to be very painful, right? Is you get rid of the draft. You do a signing day for these incoming rookies rather than assigning draft picks to guys to teams who are the worst teams in the NBA. Look, Adam Silver and the commissioner's office are right to say that the integrity of the league is the foremost important thing. But you cannot ensure 100% integrity in a sport that incentivizes losing. That's it. The current structure incentivizes teams to lose, and we can only see this from years past. How many times we see teams trying to lose games at the end of the season, and if they're not trying to lose, why is the NBA coming down with six-figure fines on teams at the end of the season for the Dallas Mavericks when they tanked to get their pick back in order to draft Derek Lively in that draft? And of course, last year we saw some shenanigans at the end of the year, especially with the Toronto Raptors. People aren't talking about this, but the Toronto Raptors were pulling their best players off the floor in clutch minutes last year to try to improve their draft lottery odds. So what we're seeing with the Utah Jazz currently, there's precedent last year. We saw this with the Raptors, and the NBA did not come down hard on that. But if you really want to fix tanking, all these half measures about, we'll start the draft lottery odds positioning at March 1st, or we'll get rid of pick protections, those are nothing. Those won't do much at all to ensure the integrity of the league. If you really want to ensure the integrity of the league, you have to rip apart the draft and just say, we're going to do what college sports does. You want to go get a player, you got to go get them, and there isn't some sort of draft lottery that we're going to hand out draft ping pong balls based on how bad you are and how bad your record is. So there is precedence in other leagues around the world, and I really think that if the NBA is serious about the integrity of the league, you just got to kill the draft guys. And I know that sounds painful, but it certainly is the cleanest solution.
It feels like to me every proposed solution for tanking just creates new problems. Like it just doesn't feel like a problem that feels fixable. But I want to talk about the top of the league. Enough of the bottom of the league, of those who are tanking. The top of the East has been fascinating. You mentioned the Pistons, with the Knicks, the Cavs, the Celtics, all have chances at getting to the top of the East. How would you power rank those four teams?
It's really tough. Before the suspensions, I would say probably I would have Detroit number one on that list. But I'm telling you, the James Harden Cavs are coming. This is a team, when you're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers with James Harden, Donovan Mitchell in that backcourt, the way that they score the ball and the way things seem so fluid, this is maybe the most important trade of the deadline when it comes to just the top and the bottom. Like when we're talking about the teams that are going to be facing the Cavs, they're going to have they were having 13 games against teams that incentivize to lose. Heading into yesterday's games, they just beat the pants off of their opponent last night, and now you're seeing another set of games against really bad teams. So the Cavs have a really soft schedule going forward, 12 games against the 10 teams at the bottom of the standings for the rest of the year. That ranks among the most in the league. And when you look at the rest of the schedule, that's really important because the Cavs are going to be facing the Detroit Pistons a couple more times, and one of those games is without Beast Stew. So given the schedule and the addition of James Harden, the way that they've been playing without Evan Mobley, I think the Cavs have an underrated case, and I would nudge them a little bit higher than the Detroit Pistons to win the East and ultimately be the representative in the NBA Finals against what I think is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wouldn't that be interesting? James Harden in the NBA Finals looking for his first title against his former team, the only team that he has been to the NBA Finals with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and trying to win that elusive title against the Thunder. It would be epic, epic drama.